How are you? I can't hear you. How are you? Ah, great. We're alive today. So I'm really excited to be here and talk about smart cities infrastructure, Internet of Things. It's stuff we do every day at SenRa. And I'm also interested to hear opinions from our extinguished panelists here because as you'll start to hear in this segment, a lot of different pieces of the overall puzzle come together when different companies with different technologies are solving the core issues that are implemented by smart cities. So the first thing I'll do is show a quick video on SenRa to kind of set the stage on what we're doing with smart cities. You'll also notice in the video some core challenges that we're trying to solve as part of these smart city efforts and other companies as well. So let's see if this will play successfully.
Why is it that, in today's technologically advanced world, we're still struggling with the basics in life? Clean air, water, energy. Shouldn't these be somehow fixable by technology? They should, and they are. SenRa is a low-power wide-area network provider for IoT and M2M applications, a solution that provides connectivity in the remotest of places, reliably and securely, so that your data is always safe. Whether you're looking for smart water solutions to tackle the global water crisis, smart agricultural solutions to get the best yield from your crop, air quality control, or to construct smart buildings and cities, every street, every parking lot. Imagine a world that's completely connected. SenRa.
So a few key points in there. You noticed a family walking with a mask due to air pollution. You also saw discussions quickly on energy, metering, parking. A lot of these core infrastructural issues that are trying to be addressed by public and private entities to make India a better place. What do we see here? Just a little step back on the IoT market for India, and this is a number that a lot of people have seen out there now at several conferences. NASSCOM came out with a report, $15 billion US market by 2020. So now we're in 19 and we're not that far off. And what you'll see is, hopefully what I'm able to explain is the smart city segment is a big portion of that market opportunity. Also, the DOT had come out and stated by 2022, you're going to have 5 billion devices in India alone connected. What does that mean? How do we get to those 5 billion numbers? And one of my thoughts is the smart city efforts. So as a businessman, when I decided to open up the company here in India, one of the key driving factors was these projected numbers, the sheer size of devices that could be connected through the smart city efforts that you see support from the mission, the smart cities mission out there. So it's quite an interesting challenge, but I think we can achieve these goals with the smart city efforts. You look at what is the government doing to support the smart city efforts here in India. So the cabinet had approved $14 billion US of funding towards the smart cities mission, revitalization, and other development efforts towards cities, smart or not. And what that is doing, it's bringing in interest and driving up market opportunity. And so we look at tenders all the time for smart parking, street lights, smart water metering, and the sheer size of numbers. You're looking at one city for 90,000 smart meters, another city that is 30,000 street lights, These numbers are going to continue to increase as more cities start to implement their RFPs and flip them as a tender basis. And this funding here is a really critical piece to drive those efforts. What we've also been able to determine as the smart cities market, it is expected to reach a almost 48 billion US dollar market opportunity by 2023, with a compound annual growth rate since 2017 at about 18.5%. That is a massive, massive market, and this shows the funding from the Indian government, the projections by the DOT are driving this massive uptick in the market adoption for smart cities. And if you step back from India, in the overall global scene, the IoT analytics research, they interviewed over 1,600 companies that are involved in enterprise IoT, and they asked them what are their main projects in 2018, what is driving their business. And over 23% of the response was smart city efforts. So the global market is also heavily invested and reaping their benefits from the smart city segment. Second to that is industrial IoT and then connected building. And I believe you'll hear more from some of our speakers, our next presenter on connected building. That also, in my opinion, kind of intertwines with the smart city efforts because part of your core infrastructure is smart buildings. So just the top three alone is another good showing for the market opportunity. You'll also see the APAC piece on smart cities is about 18%. And it's still trending upward. So this is backdated to about 2015, 2016, and they continually show trending upward, and it's just continued to get better. What we've seen from 2015 to 2018, a lot of POCs were done, a lot of pilots were done with IoT and smart city efforts. What I'm projecting in 2019 and 2020 and beyond is these pilots and POCs to actually turn into real commercial projects, real commercial field deployments, and real connectivity that's actually being used to solve these core smart city infrastructure elements. So what is the smart city infrastructure elements? If you look across the globe at smart city policies and guidelines, this actually came directly from the Smart Cities Mission's website. You'll see 6 core elements that all smart cities around the world are focused on. One is urban mobility, which is related to traffic congestion, parking, transportation, metro systems, you name it. Energy management, you know, the grid, smart lighting, smart street lighting, and so forth. Water management, consumption of homes, big utilities pushing these waters, the quality of water. Waste management, we see in Delhi the efforts that are starting to take place in waste management. How do you decompose the waste properly using IoT technology? And then the final 2 is e-governance and health and education. So these core elements are really the foundational driving factor of this 5 billion device connectivity, which I think the majority of the connections will actually come through this effort. What I tried to do is to make a little bit more sense from a technical perspective without just blowing your guys' minds out with all these crazy diagrams. So this is a 30,000 foot level look at what a smart city infrastructure needs from a technology perspective to support those deployments on those core elements. You start at your sensor level, your device level. If it's a mobile phone, if it's a Bluetooth beacon, if it is a LoRaWAN sensor, these devices are going to be the core communicating sensing that's taking place. So then when you receive that information, you're sensing properly. How does that data get sent? You need that core infrastructure, that network. So what we do at SenRa is we deploy LoRaWAN network infrastructure across India. We're currently, I think, in 34 cities, and we're deploying infrastructure on rooftops and on towers to support these sensors and devices so that they have a means of communication. You also have the traditional telecommunications infrastructure. You have Wi-Fi that's being deployed and a gamut of other technologies. Once that data has a means to send its information, you now need to then go to the management services, the data streaming, the layer that allows you to take the data, keep it secure, and route it properly and store it properly until it's needing to be processed by an analytics platform, which is that second to top layer. So then you do analytics, you do data visualization, and you have business management systems all integrated to give the smart cities, the decision makers, and these enterprises a true insight on what those sensors are doing and how can it benefit their businesses. And then finally, as we talked about the 6 elements, the core applications, what is the citizen needing? Is he needing an app for monitoring his water consumption at his home? Is there a free app for submitting your tax registration information online for e-governance? Can you talk to a doctor through an app? Can you find a parking lot? So those things are the application layer. And all of this data reports to elected officials, municipal employees, and obviously the public. And in parallel, this whole entire process has to be considered from a security perspective. Is the data encrypted? What is high-risk information? High-risk systems that could be hacked. You have to keep that all locked down. And then taking the localization out of the picture and making sure all of this process is stored in the cloud with proper artificial intelligence and processing. This is a look at all of the different types of technologies you hear. How do you understand what technology to use if you're doing the smart city requirement? I found this off of the Barcelona website, the Smart Cities Guidelines. This is a matrix that gives you an insight on all of the different technologies, not all of them, but some of them, and what a city is looking at have a use case or a requirement that need to address, and based on that, they generated this matrix to show different technologies. I highlight LoRaWAN because that's what we support, but also you can see that it's probably one of the better technologies for probably 70% of smart city deployments. You'll also see that in India, 70% of the technology that's starting to be deployed and have market growth is the low power wide area network technology. As of 2018, it had a 70% market growth. To wrap up so that I don't eat up too much time, this is solutions that we've deployed. 4 out of the 6 core elements that I talked about have been done by SenRa and are being done by other companies, from water management to intermanagement to urban mobility and waste management. And then I'll finally end it with a smart use case project that we did in Amritsar. This is sensors sending information to infrastructure, routing it to the cloud for analytics. And we also developed an app that allows that sensing to be given to the police officers so that they can then go to the parking sensor, issue a ticket to reduce traffic congestion. And it was deployed in Amritsar. The public, local media did an article on it. So you'll see on the bottom part, the police officers pointing to the actual sensor installed. To the right of that is the parking app that the police officer has on his phone, and he gets a notification when someone trips that illegal parking spot, and then the command control center, the police department, can log in and actually see the analytics. So thank you. I'm sorry if I went a little bit over. I'm really excited to hear what we all have to say, and if you all have any questions, feel free to send us information at these email addresses and follow us on Twitter and that thing. Thank you so much.